At the end of the day, I feel exactly how I thought I'd feel about Xenoblade 2, but there's a lot of greatness I wasn't expecting that could have made me feel better about the game if not for some flaws and regressions. One of the first things I noticed about the game was the incredible production value. Animations are high quality, displaying the finer range of expressions with stunning clarity. The camera is dynamic, it doesn't only do zooms, pans, and swivels. When the action gets going, it will move all about as really games and computer-generated movies should. I don't remember anything really on par in something like Avatar, which was trumpeted as the ultimate CG experience. But I don't remember the camera being very dynamic or that great of animation. It looked good for the time, but still in the uncanny valley and sloppy. I will admit I wasn't very engaged in the movie because I knew it was going to be incredibly overhyped, and I was right. I make this comparison because it is clear Monolith Soft is issuing a challenge to other developers, and even the movie industry with this game. After finishing the game, it is ended with a 20th Century Fox-like end roll. It's like, boom, we are Monolith Soft, we kick ass, we are the masters of what we do, remember our name. Xenoblade 1 pun unintended. The point is, if you are good at reading body language and facial expressions, the subtext this presentation boost adds is staggering, and makes for the strongest story since Monolith Soft made their home with Nintendo. There are flaws and plot holes, but the story is great, and unlike the first, Xenoblade doesn't take half the game to really get going. But it also nearly matches the world building in Xenoblade X, and it is a great trade-off. The game reminds me more of Xenosaga actually than Xenoblade. Thematically, it touches on some Xenosaga tones. The art direction is an evolution of Xenosaga, and the world in this game is very linear, unlike Xenoblade 1 with its open areas and interesting paths, or X and its truly open world. Xenoblade 2 has a few open titans, and the rest of the game is basically just linear hallways. Very wide and open hallways, but hallways nonetheless. And it's not the worst thing. It kind of works with the story. The only real problem with this level structure is that Monolith Soft has gotten worse about trying to force fights with non-boss enemies, as many bosses are just putting overpowered unique monsters down without any thought. And it makes it hard to get around forced encounters and can make getting through an area difficult. And it's still very common for these mini-bosses to be several levels higher than, and tougher than the actual boss. And that's weird. And if you have to grind for the mini-boss, the boss ends up being a joke. If you really maximize your equipment to take down the mini-boss, the boss will be a joke. And on one of the first titans, you are forced to go through a relatively linear path, through reasonable level 30-ish enemies, and also just randomly interspersed mobs of other level 80 enemies, including a unique monster who can fly over most of this linear path, and will follow and one-shot your party if he sees you. That area wasn't fun and seemed strange. There's no way you can fight any of these guys, and when you gain around 50 more levels and won't immediately get killed by the level 80 enemies, what is the point of having level 30s there? Xenoblade 1 would kind of section off enemies by relative strength to guide you along a linear path. It was rare to see a couple odd monsters out, but it was never anything like this. The progression system is also a bit of a step back. It doesn't feel like you get quite as much experience, and the BP system you would use to upgrade arts is replaced by a WP system. You get similar amounts of WP as BP in previous games, but the costs to upgrade are much higher, with the final usually costing around 10,000 WP. You also have a separate WP pool for each weapon type, and must use a blade with that weapon in battle to get any WP. It really makes you commit to certain blades, which actually is a problem that can ruin your experience late in the game. Maxing out a blade's affinity chart will grant you some WP boosters you can use for an easy 1,000 or more WP to a single weapon. And you should keep quite a few of these on hand, especially heading into the final few chapters. The one way it seems there is to get a lot of experience is experience earned for characters outside of your party. It seems like you get the full in-party experience plus 10 to 25% or so in bonus experience, so your party members are usually a little higher than Rex, which creates a potential problem late game. When you reach the final chapter, fast travel to an inn and make sure to maximize Rex's level, and don't level up any of your party members. you will run into some unwinnable fights if your party is higher level than Rex. I guess why this is unwinnable is kind of some minor spoilers, so I'll have put up a time to skip to if you are worried. It's really nothing major though. In the final chapter, you will encounter some boss fights that use the stats and art and skill upgrades of your party members for the boss. And you are just Rex, and you will no longer have access to his main blades. So if you didn't train in any of the remaining weapon types, you are alone, naked, with unupgraded weapons, basically outlasting your opponent, and if they are a higher level with upgraded arts, you don't stand a chance. Once the battle system gets going, I like it a lot more than the previous battle systems, but the game very slowly lets you use the battle system. You are almost halfway through the game before you can have 3 blades, and there's no reason. The battle system is pretty slow and monotonous until about 10 to 30 hours in, depending on how quickly you move through the story. I recommend focusing on the story until about the Snow Titan, because the majority of the battle system opens up, and if you plan to max out Affinity and or get all rare blades, you want to be doing side quests with 3 blades in your party, and have a lot of rare blades. To get rare blades, you kind of need levels and common blades with completed affinity charts. Your blade draws are determined by your luck stat and your boosters. Gaining levels and wearing equipment is how you raise luck, and gaining affinity with common blades is how you gain permanent draw rarity boosters. Once a common blade has their chart completed, you can release them to free up room for new blades with no consequence, and get consumable draw rarity boosters from them. Anyway, this battle system has your full set of art split across your 3 blades, and each art is assigned a unique button, so there is no need to scroll through a long art palette. You recharge your arts across all blades by auto-attacking, and can boost the power of your art by using it when one of your auto-attacks connects. It's a lot more rhythmic and fast-paced, and it feels good. Each blade also has a special move art that upgrades as you complete auto-attack cycles, or time your arts with your auto-attacks. Each of these special moves has an elemental polarity, and you and your party can combo together 3 together to seal a boss's annoying moves and change the boss's elemental weakness with an elemental sphere. You can then use the opposing element to a sphere in a chain attack to deal extra damage and gain an additional round of chain attacks. This may all sound pretty complex and confusing, but it really isn't, and it works very well. There is a lot more to the game as well. You have mini quests called Good Deeds, denoted by NPCs with trophies above their heads. Midway through the game, you can send blades out for a set amount of time to adventure, and during this time they will gain affinity, forge international contracts to expand the number of items you can buy, and bring back money, items, and bonus experience. And you can buy property for permanent boosts like enhanced running, better drop rates, and so on. And you can salvage to make money. All of this does a great job of supporting the core I talked about in more detail. If you are willing to give this game a serious 10 to 30 hours, it is a great RPG worthy of your time, and I think it will hook you like a Crabble. For an arbitrary score, I'd say 9.2. Not perfect, Monolith Soft really needs to fix some of these recurring problems. It's just mind-blowing everywhere else.